I just got back from the 2024 Kentucky Bourbon Festival where I spent more money on bourbon than I have on this month's mortgage payment. How much is that? You're going to want to stay tuned to the end to see what the numbers are because they're kind of staggering. As far as the 2024 Kentucky Bourbon Fest, in this video, we're going to cover the festival itself, go over the highlights of the festival, my favorite pours of the festival, and a couple of things I would do differently at next year's weekend festival. Thanks for storming into the Whiskey Weather YouTube channel, everybody. I'm Brandon Spinner, a TV meteorologist in Cincinnati, Ohio, and here it is always Whiskey Weather. If you're brand new to the channel, welcome in. Do want to ask where you're from and what's your favorite pour been so far of 2024. I'm on the hunt for the best pour and the best bourbon of 2024, so you're going to want to hit that subscribe button because we're going to be doing some more reviews and more bourbon hunts here as we go on into the future. As for the 2024 Kentucky Bourbon Fest, let's start right from the top. It was from September 12th through the 15th of this year. Now, the 12th was not technically and officially a date of the festival. That was kind of like the soft opening. They call it Bourbon in the Air. It came with a VIP ticket, but it was an add-on ticket for some of those general admissions or some of those folks who were part of the media side like me. $150 ticket, but was it worth it? I think so. Here's why. Well, bourbon hunting here at the Kentucky Bourbon Fest, they just sold out of the Little Book Infinite Blend, but they supposedly have the Booker's Reserve. Let's see if we can get a bottle tonight or if we're gonna have to wait for the later parts of the weekend. So it's been about 20 minutes. We're still in line at the Booker's tent or the Jim Beam tent, trying to get a Booker's The Reserve. Yeah.
Gone.
Wait, what? Yes, ma'am. The single barrel pick for the festival.
You got it.
Thank you much. All right, that is a success. We got the Booker's Reserve, as well as the Knob Creek single barrel pick for the festival. This is night one of 4 nights. This is Bourbon in the Air, which is the Thursday night festival. Luckily, grabbed one of the last Booker's, the Reserves. Great stuff there. They'll have a little book later on this weekend. Let's see if we can grab that one as well. Long line at Heaven Hill as they have the Heaven Hill 18-year Heritage Collection. It's supposed to be here all weekend. Bardstown Bourbon Company, Castle and Key. Big event. Next up, New Riff. I was part of the single barrel select for this place, so I got to grab a couple bottles myself. We're going to do 2, and one of those is going to be our October Patreon monthly giveaway. So if you are in the Whiskey Weather Enthusiast tier, in the Whiskey Weather Storm Chaser tier, or the Whiskey Weather Legends, you will be qualified for the month of October to win one of the New Riff barrel picks that I did for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Let's go grab a couple of those bottles and see what else we can get. The bag is secured. So, like I said, join the Patreon. We've got that in the link below. So as you saw there, I was able to walk away with a Booker's The Reserve bottle, which at last year's KBF, they didn't sell bottles during Bourbon in the Air. So that was a pleasant surprise to me. And it already kind of made that $150, $170 after tax or whatever, a lot more worth it than if I had just went there to have a couple of pours. Now, I will say, another thing I love about Bourbon in the Air is that it's kind of giving you that layout of what to expect for the next several days. You're able to see the festival grounds where everything's located without the hustle and bustle of thousands of people there. You get a little bit more of what I'll call an intimate setting, right? You get to talk with some of the distilleries. You get more of a hands-on approach. I talked with Forrest from Hemingway Whiskey, was able to talk with Matt and Nick from Augusta, and also just get a little bit more of a layout of what to expect for the rest of the weekend. And also, they had a pretty good dinner. They had some prime rib, they had bourbon glazed beef of some sort. It was phenomenal. And also, you got to meet up with a couple of people, and afterwards, a couple of distilleries have some of their welcome parties as well. From there on out, day one, officially day one, was Friday, and Friday was a mess. It started off raining. If you listen to the forecast, I said that was going to happen. Here's the forecast. As far as the weekend forecast, wait a second, this doesn't seem right. That's more like it. This weekend, of course, the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Let's jump right into the forecast. So here's the deal. Spotty showers possible late Thursday, more so overnight Thursday into Friday. All the outer bands of the remnants of Hurricane Francine, which made landfall in Louisiana late Wednesday. These showers will be moving southeast to north and west. They'll be periodically heavy, but the heaviest rain likely before 9 a.m. on Friday. There will still be a chance for spotty showers through the middle of the day. It does look like we have a dry window from 11 to about 4 p.m.
So as you saw in the video there was rain in the forecast, but by the end of the morning, it really started to fade away as I expected, and it turned out to be a really nice day. It was a little sloppy at the festival, but it's an outdoor festival in September in Kentucky. You kind of expect that whether it's raining or not. But the first stop for me once I got in there was the beam tent. I was 5 people away from getting that infinite blend the day before, and they were dropping that Friday at the festival, but also at the distillery. Why go to the distillery when it's going to be available at the festival? And I would say this year, there seemed to be a lot more allocated bourbons available at the 2024 festival than there was in 2023. And I think it was done for a purpose. So I went straight to the Jim Beam tent, and here's what happened.
All right, day 1 of the Kentucky Bourbon Fest. We're doing some bourbon hunting. We're back at the Jim Beam tent. Let's see if they've got any of the Infinite Blend still. All right, Infinite Blend done. Now let's go see how long this line for the Maker's cask, for the Maker's cellar aged is gonna be.
So after that, my goal was the Maker's Mark cellar aged. I wasn't sure how many bottles Maker's was gonna have at the festival, what the lines were gonna be like, because officially originally I thought that was going to be the spot everybody ran to, because last year, as I mentioned, not as many allocated bottles, but that was one that everybody knew was gonna be there.
Officially in line, 12:03. We'll see how long it takes and if they have any of the cellar aged left by the time we get to the front of the line. Oh, and I met Tim. He watches Whiskey Weather as well. So say hi to Tim.
That line was the longest one Friday morning right away, until you heard what was going on at Heaven Hill, which was probably the biggest bottle drop you could have found. Old Fitz 13-year, the VVS, one of the unicorns that I had been hoping to get my hands on. I wasn't sure. They had a limited number of bottles. You're not gonna believe how long this line was, so check it out.
So they ran out, and they'll have a couple more later on in the day, but Heaven Hill's doing an incredible drop today. I heard the VVS, Old Fitz, the 13-year. You gotta see this line.
The cannon bottle we have, they got right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a mass of people.
How you been, dude?
Okay, we have made it to the end.
So in that line, I got in line, met with my buddy Scotty, we waited. You're gonna see whether or not I walked away with the bottle, but I also ran into John from Gentleman and Whiskey. Really cool dude. If you haven't checked out his channel yet, he's just over 2,000. John, really nice dude. Got to chat with him later in the day, but that's where I first met him, was in line. He walked away with an Old Fitz VVS, and here's my journey on whether or not I was able to walk away with one.
Well, and of course you got Bruzel here. Of that building? Yeah. And I'm just...
No, but
13-year-old bottle and bond, VVS. Is there enough? Is there enough? I think there's enough. So we're in the Heaven Hill area. They've got the VVS Old Fitz 13-year, 25-year anniversary, and they've got enough left.
$43.79, please.
Oh, okay. Can I get a box?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I'll get you a sign there. And if you want an email receipt after you hit that, okay?
Now, one more big announcement that happened on Friday while I was standing in line at Heaven Hill. You've already probably seen on the channel. If you haven't already, it's this video up here. We talked with what used to be Lawrenceburg Bourbon Company, It's now called Larrikin Bourbon Company, a brand new brand, but for an old company. And we talked with Katie, who is one of the owners. Her and her husband, Greg, own the company. They're in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. No, not Lawrenceburg, Indiana, which if you checked out that video, you kind of get the whole gist of it. But this is kind of what Larrikin stands for.
He said, all right, if we're going to do it, we've got to do it now. So who are we? Yeah. We're in Lawrenceburg. That's where we are. But who we are Larrikins. Larrikin is an Australian word. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay. So a larrikin.
A kangaroo? Is a fighting kangaroo?
We've got the boxing kangaroo. But a larrikin it's an Australian word. It goes back to the 1800s.
Really?
It was when the young colony of Australia was kind of trying to shrug off the British rule, yeah. Right? And so larrikins are people that don't rely on convention or ceremony. The closest equivalence would be a maverick.
Okay.
They kind of go their own. So we figured, you know what? That's exactly who we are.
So that was just a quick snippet of my interview with Katie. You can check out the full interview in that link right there in the top right corner or in the description below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because I will be doing a review of the bottle and bond that they released that day. And that's another cool thing is some of these distilleries were doing brand new releases that released at KBF before they went anywhere else, which is again something different comparative to last year's Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And I think they're trying to do that year by year. And I thought that brought a lot more energy. Of course, Larrikin wasn't the only one doing some cool and crazy stuff there. A lot going on, whether that was over at Penelope where they had a hell of a bourbon slushy that no one seemed to know about because everybody usually runs to Barrel Craft Spirits, which is fantastic. However, I'm gonna throw a bone the Penelope folks' way. It was delicious. Also, you get a floater of the Penelope Valencia. There's a tip for next year. So on top of the rest of Friday, other than just getting some content, meeting with some of my friends, and meeting with the Larrikin people, afterwards, there was a cool after party that Larrikin shot. 1 second. All right, I'm back. We got to meet Larry. He was the Larrikin. He's the blow-up big kangaroo. And a larrikin is kind of like a maverick in our terms, and that's what Katie mentioned in that video. Again, go check out Larrikin. It was probably my biggest surprise of the festival and something I was not totally expecting to encounter or anything like that. But I've got this squeaky, it's not even a squeaky, it's like a stress ball. I already ripped the head off of one of them by accident. Don't tell my daughter, this one's hers. But yes, so Larrikin had an after party. That's where I got to meet Greg, the owner, got to hobnob with some of the other folks there and meet a couple other bourbon folks in the community that I've never met before and kind of just get to know and just hang out in Bardstown. That's one of the other cool parts. It's in downtown Bardstown. Very historic. If you've never been there, right in the heart of the Bourbon Trail, it's heaven, literally. If you could look at what heaven was like, it's downtown Bardstown. So Friday night, on top of the Larrikin party, after grabbing dinner, don't tell anybody this, but I crashed the Bardstown Bourbon Company party. They have this big party every Friday night, really fun. 2 years ago, we crashed it and partied in the parking lot. This year, we all went in there. This year, it was Miami Vice themed. Very cool. Big shout out to the folks over at Bardstown Bourbon Company in Green River. They throw a great party. So after Bardstown, we went back to Louisville, and then Saturday was a big day, not only at KBF, but around KBF. Of course, Saturday was the morning Four Roses, did their limited edition bottle drop. I was not gonna try to get myself involved with that nightmare. Jim Beam released the reserves. Makers had their cellar aged. And again, that's what the releases were at the festival, aside from the Four Roses limited edition. So the first thing I did when I got to the festival was I went to go see how many people were already there, and you're not going to believe the line to get in. And that's something that I want to talk about, on whether or not you're going to go or not, how to kind of go after it, right? Whether you're there for bottles, whether you're there to drink and meet people, it depends on what your plan is at the festival, on what time you should get there. And we're going to touch on that in some of my things that I would do differently section here in just a couple minutes. The rest of Saturday, I ran in, got some video, media-wise, and then randomly walked up to the Michter's tent where they had Michter's toasted barrel finish bourbon, which was one of the harder to find bottles that they had just released that day at the festival. The line was crazy when I got in with the media pass, but when I went back in after general admission was allowed in, there was no line. And somehow I lucked in to 2 other bottles. Here's that.
All right, it is day 2 of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. We're in the line for Michter's. They supposedly have the 10-year rye, as well as the 2023 Bombergers. We'll see if we're lucky enough and far enough in front of the line to walk away with both, or if we're gonna come up empty-handed. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you are a fan of the channel and you like the bourbon hunts. There's the Whiskey Weather viewer right there. Also, don't forget to smash that like button. How you doing?
Great, how are you?
Doing well. What do you have left?
10 rye and Bombergers.
I'll take a 10 rye. And it's a 2023 Bomber?
It is.
I don't have that one. Let's go with that.
Fantastic. The package. Total cups of $359.34. You may tap or insert. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you care for a receipt?
Yes, please.
All right.
Thank you much.
You, my friend, are all set. Have a wonderful day.
You as well.
Cheers, Dan.
Go Michter's. Cheers. There you have it. Walked away. Michter's 10-year rye and the 2023 Bombergers. I have a buddy who was looking for the Bombergers, so we're gonna grab that for him. But that 10-year rye, hard to pass up, especially when you can get it near MSRP. Day 2 of the Kentucky Bourbon Fest. The fun is just beginning. You can see the folks lined up all over the festival. Angel's Envy just did their new release today, which is a triple oak. A ton of great bottles to grab here at the Kentucky Bourbon Fest.
So as you saw there, Michter's 10-year rye, also the 2023 Bombergers. But the biggest line of the day, yet again, was at Heaven Hill. And this is because Heaven Hill released their Parker's Heritage 14-year, which I touched on in this video up here on the top right, which is part of the 12 bottles I think you should be hunting here this fall. That line was crazy. Not only did they have the Parker's Heritage, they had the Heaven Hill 18-year as well.
Today, Heaven Hill is giving out Parker's Heritage, new 14-year release. Look at the line today. All the way. It just keeps going. So this is still the line for the Parker's Heritage release from Heaven Hill. Okay.
See if there's any other tasting.
And it goes all the way to the second entrance at the festival. Crazy day here, folks. And the sunny skies are with us. It's gonna be hot. And the line for Heaven Hill is hot. Sheesh. So Sean just waited in that long line at Heaven Hill. Sean, what'd you walk away with?
I walked away with the 14-year Parker's Heritage and an 18-year Heaven Hill Heritage.
Both of them.
Both of them.
How excited are you, man?
Man, I've never seen that anywhere in the wild, so I'm pretty stoked.
How long were you in line?
An hour.
An hour.
An hour.
Well, worth the wait, though.
It was
right?
very well worth the wait.
Is this first time at KBF?
First time at KBS.
Where you come out from?
From Florida.
From Florida? Where in Florida?
Pensacola area.
So you missed out on the hurricane, right?
We did. We brought it up here a little bit,
A little
but
bit.
today's been a beautiful day.
Beautiful day, right? Because it is always whiskey weather, is it not?
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for meeting me, Sean.
Take care.
Congratulations. Take
Thank
it
you.
easy. Bet.
And that line was forever. Ran into a Whiskey Weather viewer. Big shout out to Ahmed. We interviewed him about his day, what he was looking for, and here's what that went like.
We're in line with Ahmed. You've been here at the Heaven Hill line for how long?
An hour or 2 hours now.
2 hours. So you got in line the moment the doors
12 o'clock,
opened.
yep.
What are you trying to get?
Well, they had Parker's and they had Heaven Hill 18, so we'll see what we get up there, what's available, but I hope we get one of them.
Yeah, fingers crossed,
Yep,
right?
yep.
You've been a follower of the Whiskey Weather YouTube channel. Thank you so much. What has been your favorite part so far of the festival?
Just getting to try a lot of different stuff that I wouldn't normally come across, or little small craft brands and stuff like that. Like I love a lot of the mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
But where we are at, it's not terribly hard to get, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice to come here and try other stuff that I probably wouldn't try or wouldn't spend the money on without trying.
Sure. Is this your first year here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are your thoughts?
It's a lot. Like, I mean, it's just the crowds, stuff, you know, we're committed to this today, so we've been swapping in and out with our significant others to
Is that the key?
Yep.
Just to
So
kind of have like an assembly line?
Yeah, we're still
Yeah, we're moving with the line.
Yeah.
So where are you in the line?
right here with the guy in the red shirt here.
Right here in the red shirt. So where are you from?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Yep.
All right. Well, Cincinnati, let's
Yes,
go.
sir.
What's been your favorite pour so far this weekend?
Oh boy. There's so many of them. So the best one I've had this weekend was before we got here. We stopped at what was the Lawrenceburg place.
Larrikin
that's now there.
Yeah.
And one of the single barrels they had there at the distillery was delicious.
Oh, awesome.
We might go back and get one tomorrow.
Oh, sweet.
But they were awesome, and we spent some time with them yesterday over there. But yeah, they're good.
Yeah. And I have one other question. Sure. If you could only drink one distillery for the rest of your life, what would that distillery be?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, that's tough.
Putting you on the spot.
I love Heaven Hill.
Heaven Hill? What's your favorite expression then from Heaven Hill?
I like the higher proof stuff. So I liked C923. That was a great one. Yeah, you can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
And from a availability perspective, you can't beat Green River.
Yeah.
Like
I'm right there. I'm about to go pick up
Yep.
the single barrel.
We just got it signed. Yep.
So great stuff there, Ahmed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Keep
Nice
up
to
the good
meet
work.
you. Cincy Strong. It's always whiskey weather.
Yep, that's right. Thank you.
So a big shout out to Ahmed from Cincinnati, one of my hometown viewers, but ran into viewers from all over the country who watched the channel. Shout out to all of you who stopped by, said hey to me. After that, ran into the media tent to go get some work done. Big surprise, there was a Rockstar there. Band called Hailstorm. There's nothing more whiskey weather than a band called Hailstorm playing at a bourbon festival. That is literally whiskey and weather. Whiskey weather. I think they agreed too.
Hey everybody, we are Hailstorm,
Hi.
and you're watching the Whiskey Weather YouTube channel.
So big shout out to Lizzie. Thank you to her for recording that video. That was a complete surprise. Nobody knew about that until the morning of, except the festival folks who were putting it on. They didn't want the hoopla of all the Hailstorm fanatics. We'll call them whiskey weatherheads. And they didn't want them storming the gates because of this surprise concert. So it was really neat. She belted. She had thousands of people gathered around the stage. It kind of almost shut down the festival in a way. They were playing an acoustic set, and it was fabulous.
Sit back down for just one more drink. Oh yeah. Here's to us. Here's to love. All the times that we felt love. Here's to you. Fill the glass. 'Cause the last few days have gone too fast.
So after that, a bunch of running around. I got to meet up with some of my friends. This cool video that I took, if you haven't seen it, I put it on TikTok, on my Instagram. I took the sunglasses, they're in my car, but I put KBF 2024 on the sunglasses, had a great time doing that. And then I knew that it was gonna be my last day, so I tried to hit as many tents as possible just to meet up with some folks. I ended up drinking with Amin over at Old Louisville, kind of in a VIP.
And we got Amin from Old Louisville pouring up the barrel pick. KBF 10 years, 112 proof, and it is phenomenal. Go see them. Old Louisville. Where do you think they are? They're in Louisville.
Louisville, Kentucky, baby. Say it like you're drunk.
Situation. After the festival was over, he pulled us in his tent. If you haven't tried Old Louisville, I know the bottles are expensive. Very, very good. After that, went to the Chicken Cock House. I know, get the laughs out now. But really cool experience there at their bar. And then all of us went over to Heaven Hill for the special dinner. It was the jazz and cigars night. Got to meet really cool people. Got to meet Jody from Heaven Hill. Had an amazing conversation. He distills for Evan Williams right now. He's been part of Heaven Hill for more than 40 years, I believe. Really cool. He was there when the fire happened. It was just cool to kind of just talk to him about his journey in the whiskey world. And that's what I love about these festivals, is it's not only the folks that love whiskey, it's the people within the brands themselves. Freddie Noe was there. Fred Noe was there. You had Brent Elliott. You had Rob Samuels. They were all there at the festival, so you get your own hands-on experience with some of the biggest names in the whiskey world, not named Buffalo Trace, because they think they're too good for the festival. But that's neither here nor there. As far as the rest of the night, ran over to Heaven Hill. I'm a Heaven Hill fanboy. Like, really big fanboy. Like, if I could only have one distillery for the rest of my life, it'd be Heaven Hill. So we went over there. There was a great dinner. It was a cool experience. Very cool with the folks dressed up as Mardi Gras themed. There was jazz. There were cigars. Probably the best part was talking with Jody and having a cigar. But also, I didn't know this was part of it, but again, they had allocated bottles that you can get. But what were they? You're going to want to check this out.
Tonight we are at Heaven Hill for the Bourbon, Cigars, and Jazz event. This is night 2 of Kentucky Bourbon Fest. A bunch of people here, great food, even better pours, and even better people. And they've got some cool allocated bottles. They say they got one of each for everybody. Let's see if that's true and what we're gonna walk away with. What did we get?
Hey, I hope I got something good, because I waited in line forever.
You have your canvas bag?
It's upstairs.
Okay. And there's an extra cigar in there because I don't care.
Well, thank you.
Do what? Was she doing in there? Who? Where? The still girl? Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Thank you so much.
And did I get your wristband?
Yes, you did. You
Okay,
cut it.
awesome.
Thank you very
Have a good
much.
night.
So yes, got my hands on 2 old Fitz VVS's, one at the festival, one at Heaven Hill. Great night. Also the Heaven Hill Heritage 18. If you're gonna get it at MSRP, kind of can't pass it up. So I had to take that up. So that was the experience of the weekend. Loved it, enjoyed it. I will be back. I went last year, I went this year, and I'm gonna be going again in 2025. But there are a few things I would do differently. We're gonna touch on those first, and then we're gonna go to my favorite parts of the weekend. If I were to do this differently, I would book an Airbnb or a hotel in Bardstown. I say that because I already done that. This year, waited too late, had to get a hotel in Louisville. It was a little bit of a nightmare trying to go from Louisville to the festival and then get back to Louisville. It's only a 45-minute drive, but you're going to a bourbon festival, drinking bourbon, so you need to find a responsible way to get back. They had shuttles, that's great, but I don't really want to leave my car there with the bourbon sitting in it on a hot day where the tops could pop. So that would be one thing I would do differently, and I'm already doing it. So if you're thinking about going next year, they've already released the dates. It's gonna be September 5th through the 7th. That's Labor Day weekend of next year. Already a busy weekend as it is. People have extra days off. You kind of want to jump on the Airbnb or the hotel train today. So you want to check that link out in my bio where you can book those rooms and check that out. So that's number 1. Number 2 is parking. If you are going to drive, just know the parking situation, not so great in Bardstown. It's literally a town. So parking is street parking, or you're parking in people's driveways for $20 to $30 a day. That starts to add up. Third, I would have booked my lockers ahead of time. While at the festival, if you get bottles, you're not gonna wanna walk around with them all day. Thankfully, they had enough left that by the time I got there, I could purchase a locker for the weekend. But not everybody was lucky enough, so you ended up walking around with bags of bottles. Again, I'm gonna book ahead of time because you can book it for the weekend beforehand, and I think you get a deal on that as well. So that's the third thing. Fourth thing is I would eat a lot more food before I went. I kind of was rushing around, didn't really get a great breakfast, so getting in there, didn't have enough food in my stomach. Didn't feel drunk, just didn't feel great. Especially the day before drinking, then going back again. It was hot, it was humid. You kind of want the sustenance to keep you going. I felt a little run down until I got food later on in the media tent. That's another thing. If you're only going as a general admission member, there's no food for you. You've got food trucks that you can purchase food from outside, but you don't get food. VIP's got food, it's great food. It's part of the $500 to $600 ticket, which I know a lot of people can't afford. So if you're going to go next year on a general admission ticket, eat before you go because it's gonna help save you some money that you could spend on some of these bottles. Another thing was I didn't really feel like I checked out all the shops. There was all the distilleries, there were some bottle shops, but there were also some cool vendors that had a bunch of really cool bourbon related gear, whether that was barrel stave heads that you could buy and put on your wall. There was these challenge games. The guy who does crystal cutting in front of you was there. I know Chris from Customs, he does the flags that are made of bourbon barrels. It's a veteran owned company. He's a really cool guy. It was one of those things that was out of sight, out of mind. The way that they had situated the festival this year, you kind of forgot about them because they were kind of pushed aside from the rest of the group. And that's one thing I wish I would have done, is gone and checked out some of those other tents and giving them some of the patronage because they were spending their hard-earned money to be there as well. And then lastly, I mentioned timing. Whether you're driving back and forth from Louisville or not, it's about what time you get to the festival. VIP gets in at 11, general admission gets in at noon. If you're there for general admission just to get in, the line was forever long, as I showed you earlier. It takes a while to get through that line, especially when you're trying to scan in. So I would just probably get there at a different time. As far as the highlights of the festival, boy, there are so many highlights. The biggest one is you folks. I met Cal, I met Ahmed, I met Tim, I met a bunch of you that came up and said you watched the Whiskey Weather YouTube channel, that you enjoyed it. So a big shout out to you guys. It was great meeting some of you, and I can't wait to have my own gathering where I get to meet more and more of you. Not necessarily at Kentucky Bourbon Festival, but maybe just to get together in Cincinnati or somewhere in Kentucky. So if that's something you're interested in, maybe drop that in the comment section below as well. Another one was getting to see my friends. Before I started the YouTube channel, I was on Instagram. I still am on Instagram. I just hit 17,000, humble brag. If you want to head over to the Instagram, don't forget to follow me there. But I made a lot of amazing friends via Instagram. Some that I've hung out with several times, some that I've never met, that I've only had conversations with on the phone, and I got to meet them from California, from Georgia, from New York, from wherever they were. They were all over the country, and it was great to meet them in person and get to hang out with my friends again and just relax and enjoy the bourbon, because that's what makes bourbon and whiskey so much fun, right? It's great whiskey, but if you're drinking it by yourself, it's fine. It's better when you're drinking it with the people that you love and the people you want to be with. A friend of mine always says, drink the best with the best, and I certainly did that this weekend. And then finally, meeting new people, right? I met people from Instagram, but I met people that I never thought I was going to meet. A big shout out to Mike and Mike. My producer and I, Allie, went to go stop by the cigar tent, and they invited us to sit down in their cigar booth, chit chat, got to meet them. They're both from Georgia. We met David and his wife from Missouri. David owns Investment, or not owns, but he's part of a company called Investment Bourbon, where they're sourcing barrels and finishing barrels. Wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't at the festival, and that's what makes this festival so much fun, is getting to meet new people, and of course, getting to meet these brands, connecting with the brands, hearing their story, and in this case, being able to tell some of these brands' story. If it wasn't for me being there, who was able to tell that Larrikin story, right? Which was really cool, and I loved being able to meet Katie and Greg, because they're awesome people. So finally, before we get to how much I spent, my 5 favorite pours of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Number 1 has to be the Larrikin Bottled in Bond. I'm not just saying it because I talked with Katie. You can tell I'm becoming a fanboy of Larrikin. It was phenomenal. I'm a big bottle and bond snob. It blew me away right away. I went back 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 times to get a pour of it because of how good it was. Second on the list, Green River Single Barrel that was picked just for the festival. Fantastic. I'm bummed. That's one thing I would have done ahead of time. I put that back on the list of things I would have done better. I wanted a bottle of that, got there, and they were already sold out. So there you go. Number 3, Old Louisville Single Barrel of the Festival. Amazing. Rob, my buddy Rob Cameron, Meeting Minutes on Instagram, really cool dude. He helped pick that. He helped design a photo that he was signing autographs for at the festival. That was an amazing pour. Got to drink with Amin in the tent quite a bit. A lot of people loved that bottle as well. Number 4 was one that completely blew me away. I tried that Thursday night at Bourbon in the Air, and that's another reason why I say Bourbon in the Air is worth it. you're not waiting in lines. Every other day, Friday and Saturday, you waited like 20 to 30 people deep to get a pour. Thursday, you walked right up to the table. There was no one there. There you go. It's worth $150, folks. Even if you're doing general admission, spend the general admission and then spend $150 on bourbon in the air. You're going to get more out of bourbon in the air, probably, that you will out of the general admission trying to wait in line all day. But number 4 was the Nulu Maple Brulee. Yes, you're drooling already. I am too. It was fantastic. It had that maple creme brulee, very sweet. It's different. I love different. Something that's not been done before. So a big shout out to Chase over at Nulu, Mr. Hazelbaker, who's got his own bottle and bond as well. And then number 5, another new release that I believe released at the festival, Barrel Craft Spirits. They had their ice wine cask finish. It's going to be part of their brand new cask finish series where we already did a Mizunara review, which was fantastic. Their Amburana, which was in my top 20 bourbons of last year, as well as their Two Islands finish. So their ice wine cask finish was fantastic. I would check those out. Big honorable mention to Penelope and Barrel Craft Spirits. They both had slushies as well. As I mentioned, Penelope's slushies I thought were a little bit better than Barrel's this year, but Barrel's so good, so good. So those are my top 5 pours. So here's the moment of truth. How much did I spend this year at 2024 Kentucky Bourbon Fest? Well, I told you I spent more on the bottles than I did on my mortgage. Here's the fruition of that, the fruits of that labor. Yeah, I got 2 bottles of the New Riff, as I mentioned, going to be giving one away for my Patreon members in the month of October, so don't forget to join the Stormfront. There's a link to that in the bio below. Michter's, the Bombergers 2023, Michter's 2023 Rye, also Little Book the Infinite, the Bookers, the Reserves, of course, the Old Fitz. All of this coming together for a grand total of, drumroll please, $1,874.56. I guess I'm eating ramen for the rest of the month. But I do want to ask you guys, which one would you like to see a review of first? I already told you I'm going to be doing the Larrikin. Outside of that, what other bottle should be the next one that comes out with a review? Drop that in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed this video. All in all, what I will say is if you haven't been to Kentucky Bourbon Festival, you need to make plans for 2025. As I mentioned, it's Labor Day weekend of 2025, September 5th through the 7th, but Bourbon in the Air will be on September the 4th, and you're going to want that ticket as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to share this with your bourbon-loving friends, or maybe send this to someone you want to take next year to Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Until next time, I'll leave it the same way I always do. It is always whiskey weather. We'll see you in the next video.